Okay, Suki has to read.
Yes, I will read.
Yeah, go ahead.
Whoever sincerely enters the path of works must leave behind him the stage in which need and desire are the first law of our acts. For whatever desires still trouble his being, he must, if he accepts the high aim of yoga, put them away from him into the hands of the Lord within us. The Supreme Power will deal with them for the good of the sadhaka and for the good of all. In effect, we find that once the surrender is done, all is provided the rejection is sincere. Egoistic indulgence of desire may, for some time, recur under the continued impulse of a past nature, but only in order to exhaust its acquired momentum and to teach the embodied being in its most unteachable part, its nervous, vital, emotional nature, by the reaction of desire, by its grief and unrest, bitterly contrasted with calm periods of the higher peace or marvelous movements of divine ananda. That egoistic desire is not a law for the soul that seeks liberation or aspires to its own original God nature. Afterwards, the elements of desire in those impulsions will be thrown away or persistently eliminated by a constant denying and transforming pressure. Only the pure force of action in them, pravritti, justified by an equal delight in all work and result, that is inspired or imposed from above, will be preserved in the happy harmony of a final perfection. To act, to enjoy, is the normal way and right of the nervous being. But to choose by personal desire, its action and enjoyment is only its ignorant will, not its right. Alone the supreme and universal will must choose. Action must change into a dynamic movement of that will. Enjoyment must be replaced by the play of a pure spiritual ananda. All personal will is either a temporary delegation from on high or usurpation by the ignorant asura.
Yeah, okay. So, the chapter is the supreme will, because the Karma Yoga, when you are surrendered to the Lord, ultimately the supreme power takes over and then you become an instrument in the hands of the supreme will. So, this is what he is describing. There should be no desire at all. If desire is there, you cannot surrender. Okay? So, because desire means you are wanting your own will, and if your own will is there, where is the question of surrender? Surrender means totally, you will do only what you are told. Okay, so I am reading each sentence. Whoever sincerely enters the path of works, that is Karma Yoga. In other words, you are not wanting to go away from the physical world. It's not only knowledge that you want, it's not only love that you want, but you are doing works and dedicating all your works to the Lord. Okay? So slowly, slowly you are doing the works for Him and not for yourself. So that naturally, when you are not doing it for yourself, desire will slowly get less and less and less and finally disappear when you go to the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness. So, whoever sincerely enters the path of works must leave behind him the stage in which need and desire are the first law of our acts. The first law of our acts is, if you remember the standards of conduct, the first law is the egoistic level, the ego level where desire and need both, in which need can sometimes be legitimate, but desire for a spiritual life is never legitimate. Desire may be legitimate for a normal life, okay, but not for a spiritual life. If you want a spiritual life, desire is absolutely no question. Need also, ultimately, even your needs will be fulfilled by the divine. But sometimes in the earlier stages, need is okay, because you may need something and you have to arrange for it. So that's okay. Is the first law of what? So in other words, spiritual life, no desire. That has to go completely. Okay? For whatever desires still trouble his being, note the word trouble, because when you don't get your desire, there is a disturbance in the being. And we may not be aware, but in the being inside, there is a disturbance, which sometimes we can't make out, but it is there. Okay, very, very observing person will be able to see that when his desire is not satisfied, there will be trouble. Okay? Even when he is satisfied, even when the desire is satisfied, there is the trouble of excitement. And when it is not satisfied, there is the trouble of disappointment. Okay? So that's the interesting part. Even when you're satisfied, there is excitement, and that also is opposite to a spiritual life. He must, for whatever desire still trouble his being, he must, if he accepts the high aim of yoga, put them away from him into the hands of the Lord within us. So there's a very interesting suggestion here that when you are not able to get rid of your desires, then you tell the Lord to take it away from you and put it. Actually, imagine that you are putting this desire into his hands. The supreme power will deal with them for the good of the sadhaka. Okay? And I note that will deal with them for the good of the sadhaka, because in the beginning, when you are denying your own desires, there will be a little bit of a disappointment. But it's for your own good that has to come. Just like bitter medicine is for your own good and for the good of all. Because if your ego goes away, everybody around you also will benefit. Because if your ego is there, you will show arrogance, you will show anger, you will show disturbance very easily. So others also benefit from your calmness. Okay. In effect, we find that once this surrender is done, always provided the rejection is sincere, that's a parenthetical phrase. So we'll read it without the parenthetical phrase. In effect, we find that once this surrender is done, egoistic indulgence of desire may for some time recur under the continued impulse of past nature, but only in order to exhaust its acquired momentum and to teach the embodied being in its most unteachable part, his nervous, vital, emotional nature, by the reactions of desire, by its grief and unrest, bitterly contrasted with calm periods of the higher peace or marvelous movements of divine ananda. That egoistic desire is not a law for the soul that seeks liberation or aspires to its own original God nature. Because he's saying all. In other words, those who seek liberation are not interested in original God nature. They are not interested in perfection. They are interested only in the liberation of the soul. Okay, that's why. Or if you are aspiring for the original God nature, that is the Karma Yoga path. But those who are seeking for liberation, it may be only the Jnana Yoga path, sometimes even the Bhakti Yoga path. But Karma Yoga will make you get divine nature. That's right. He says there are three types of muktis. Huh? There is a Sayujya Mukti, which is the path of knowledge. There is a Samipya Mukti, which is the path of bhakti. And there is Sadharmya Mukti. You get the nature of the divine in your dealings in the physical world. So that's what we say. Now, what is interesting is which is the most unteachable part? Naturally, your mind is easier to teach. Your vital is more difficult to teach, but with some effort it can be done. But the nervous, because it's full of fixed habits, nervous, vital, emotional nature, by the reactions of desire, by its grief and unrest. Okay, these are unteachable parts, very difficult to teach. But you will learn slowly. How do you learn? By you see the unrest and it is contrasted with the calm periods of higher peace. Now, he is talking of calm periods of higher peace. Why? Because right in the beginning of the sentence he has said, once the surrender is done. If the surrender is done, even then desires can continue as a past mechanical action. Okay? This is exactly like the machine that is switched off will continue to work. You can take any machine, okay? If you switch it off, it will continue with this motion for some time. This is exactly what happens also in the spiritual life. When you have got the basic surrender is done, that's a switching off. But the desire will continue slowly, slowly, slowly until the energy that you have given it in the past gets exhausted, because now there's no new energy coming in. You have said no to it. Then it slowly dies out. It's like a scooter. You're sitting on a scooter and 50 meters before your destination, you switch it off to save petrol. Okay? And then the vehicle continues slowly until it comes to the end of the journey. Okay? So this is what Sadhguru is saying. And how do you learn? Because the calm periods are there sometimes, and when the calm periods are there, you are in a very happy condition. But when the disturbance comes, then you realize that, oh, this is the opposite of the spiritual life. That's what Sadhguru is saying. Okay. It is taught, okay, by the higher. So I read that phrase again. Okay. Egoistic indulgence of desire may sometime recur under the continued impulse of past nature, but only in order to exhaust its acquired momentum, the energy which is accumulated in the desire that continues for some time, and to teach the embodied being in its most unteachable part, that's a lower, your physical, emotional, and also the vital, nervous. The nervous is physical, okay? They have certain habits, and those habits are very difficult to dislodge when they are physical. By its grief and unrest, bitterly contrasted with calm periods of higher peace or marvelous movements of the divine Ananda. So when you get you're surrendered basically, and you get these peace and Ananda, then you see that again when you fall down, that trouble is there. And then you learn that that is absolutely the opposite of a spiritual life. So that's what you learn. Afterwards, the element of desire in those impulsions will be thrown away or persistently eliminated by a constant denying and transforming pressure. So now when you have understood that this indulgence of desire is not at all beneficial to you for a spiritual life, you start putting pressure. And with the pressure, it will disappear. Okay, so afterwards, the element of desire in these impulsions will be thrown away or persistently eliminated by constant denying and transforming pressure. Only the pure force of action in them, pravritti, justified by an equal delight in all work and result that is inspired or imposed from above, will be preserved in the happy harmony of final perfection. What Srimati is saying is very interesting. Okay, so we'll have a look at that. So, suppose you enjoy something. A very easy example is to give something that you like to eat. Okay, so in the beginning, desire, and you actually seek that thing which will give you the delight. Then you realize your surrender to the divine is full, and you say, no, I don't want that desire. But it will continue for some time. Okay, even the enjoyment will be there. Ultimately, slowly, 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 the desire for that will disappear. But does it mean that the enjoyment, if by chance it comes to you, that same thing which you like, if it comes to you without your desire, will you not get the ananda? So he's saying the ananda can be there, but the desire has gone away. These are all very subtle points, okay? You can continue to enjoy what you enjoyed earlier, but now it is without attachment and without desire. Okay? And he's saying equal delight. Equal means absolutely your inner being is untouched, but you will enjoy. And result that is inspired or imposed from above will be preserved. The enjoyment will be preserved in a happy harmony of the final perfection. Enjoyment need not disappear. This is described very much in the Gita also about the rasa. Okay, so to act, to enjoy is a normal law and right of the nervous being. Then what's the problem? Problem is that you are choosing what you like and what you don't like, and what you don't like you are rejecting. But it has to be a equal delight. He has used the word equal delight. In other words, whatever comes to you from outside, and the last stage you will enjoy. Whatever comes to you from outside. Even Sriyanga goes so far as to say even your failure. Okay? Even the failure will leave you in the beginning absolutely calm, but even the failure will give you delight. Why? Because you see the purpose of that failure. And then you say, oh, this is the reason why I failed. And you will enjoy it. Okay? So only the pure force of action in them, justified by an equal delight in all that. And now he's saying, just as he said, it's a right of the mind to have knowledge. It's a right of the vital to enjoy. It's a right of the body to have a good health. These are all its rights. They are the fulfillments and the rights. To act, to enjoy is a normal law and right of the nervous being. But to choose by personal desire its action and enjoyment is only its ignorant will, not its right. So long as you choose what is pleasant and what is unpleasant, you are not in a spiritual condition. But you must be able to enjoy everything that comes to you. But enjoyment is only at the last stage. But in the beginning, in the middle stage also, that which you disliked, you will start becoming immune to the dislike. Maybe you will eat it, maybe you won't, but you will not be able to, you will not reject it like you did earlier. To choose by personal desire and action, to choose, there should be no choice at all. A surrender implies that there is no choice. Whatever the divine is giving you, you are taking, isn't it? The moment you say, I want this and I don't want that, it's not surrender anymore. It's your own personal desire. That's what he's saying. But enjoyment can be there. Alone, the supreme and universal will must choose. He will choose what is right for you and give you. You must be able to enjoy it. Enjoyment must be replaced by the play of a pure spiritual ananda. Enjoyment at the vital level will be replaced and it will become a spiritual ananda. Okay? That's what. There's a difference between pleasure and bliss or ecstasy and ananda. There's a difference. In the earlier one, the enjoyment will give you attachment and desire. But the pure ananda will not give you a attachment, nor desire. All personal will is either a temporary delegation from on high or a usurpation by the ignorant asura. Ignorant asura. That means, in other words, so long as you are having personal will, then it is not really, truly a final spiritual consciousness. It is not. So sometimes it can even be a usurpation by the ignorant asura. That's the extreme. Otherwise, you have to realize that your will, liking and disliking, is coming from on top, but it's a temporary delegation. It's given to you. The power to enjoy is given to you as a temporary delegation, because all enjoyment comes from higher and from on top. There's nothing that is self-existing in the lower planes of consciousness. Everything comes from on top. Okay, so let's go on to the next.
Would you like me to read?
Yes, you can. The social law. He is referring back to the standards of conduct. First, he has dealt with the ego. Now he is dealing with the social law, the second, okay, in the Karma Yoga. Go ahead, the social law.
The social law, that second term of our progress, is a means in which the ego is subjected in order that it may learn discipline by subordination to a wider collective ego. This law may be quite empty of any moral content and may express only the needs or the practical good of the society as each society conceives it, or it may express those needs and that good, but modified and colored and supplemented by a higher moral or ideal law. It is binding on the developing but not yet perfectly developed individual in the shape of individual duty, family, obligations, communal or national demand, so long as it is not in conflict with his growing sense of the higher right. But the sadhaka of the Karma Yoga will abandon this also to the Lord of Works. After he has made this surrender, his social impulse and judgments will, like his desire, only be used for their exhaustion, or it may be so far as they are still necessary for a time to enable him to identify his lower mental nature with mankind in general or with any grouping of mankind in its works and hopes and aspirations. But after that brief time is over, they will be withdrawn and a divine government will alone abide. He will be identified with the divine and with others only through the divine consciousness and not through the mental nature.
Yeah. One by one, Surendra is dealing with the 4 standards of conduct. And if you are going to do Karma Yoga in the integral yoga way, then what is the gradation that comes, how your behavior will change. That's what is described. So I'll do one thing. We'll read the summary and then go back to because some of the things, the phrases are interesting and we have to see what he's saying. So this paragraph that we read just now is saying the need of the second law is felt because of social. No, this is obviously this is the one that we read just now. Huh? Yeah, that's right. So need of the second law, the social law, is felt because social order and discipline, social harmony and peace can be attained only when the collective group governs, controls, lays down laws applicable to all members. So, even if you have started your spiritual life, still the influence of society continues with you. Okay, but later on, you are quite free to give up all even social laws and social customs. Such laws may be purely mechanical without any moral implications. As I have said, moral implications is third level of conduct. So social laws need not be any. Like I said, okay, traffic rules, for instance, they are social laws. You have to drive on the left, okay. Then you cannot cross red lights. All these are all then dress codes, okay, for special occasions. If you are going to a formal meeting, you cannot go in shorts. It reminds me, one day I had gone into a government office and I was wearing pajamas. And my companion, my ashram companion, he was wearing shorts. So we entered the office and the officer said, "You go away." He told my companion because he was wearing shorts. So I said, "Why? Why is he going?" No, he is not dressed properly. He has to go away. So that's a social law. Okay? You can't go to a wedding in a banyan. You are invited to a. So these are all social laws. Okay. No crossing of red lights, driving on the left. They are not moral laws at all. They are social laws. That dress codes for special occasions. Okay. Then, for instance, no cutting of trees. That also is a social law. Okay. Things like that. But so when you start spiritual life, even then you are subject to the social laws for a certain amount of time. But such laws could also spill over onto moral ground. For instance, no stealing, no cheating, no killing, all these things also sometimes the social law crosses over into the third level of the moral law. Again, such laws could become linked to ideals of nobility, compassion, self-sacrifice. For instance, conscription, compulsory military training, paying taxes for social welfare schemes, okay, things like that. These are also, they are noble ideals, but they are still social laws. Okay, you have to pay your income tax. Further, social laws could pertain to family responsibilities. Okay, social law. You have to look after your parents. The parents have to look after you and your children, and when you are grown up, you have to look after your parents. You have to look to your family welfare. Okay. Social duties, then national demand. For instance, war, acquisition of private lands for national development. Okay, that's another example of national demand. Okay, you have a big property. You have, say, let us say, 100 acres. Even you have very less also. But a railway track is going through your land. Then you have to give it up because it's for the national good. So you have to give it up. Okay. So there what happens. Our, um, on the Tendivanam road, we had a garden which Jyoti Patel used to look after. Her father had actually bought it. I forget the name of the place, but anyway, it's a big garden.
It's
But
a top land.
Pardon?
Top land. Top land.
Okay, okay. Top land, correct. So when the national highway, the 4-lane highway to Tindivanam came up, they had to give up part of that. You can't contest. You can't go to a court. The court will award it to the national development. Okay? That same problem is coming up in Auroville also in some places. So these are all social laws. Okay, yeah. Social laws could pertain to family responsibilities, social duties, national demand. Okay, these are examples of social laws, provided they do not clash with the human conceptions of the highest right and just. Okay, in other words, when you have reached a spiritual level, okay, very high level, then your social laws don't apply to you. So there's a gradation, and Sri Aurobindo says that very, very clearly. First of all, you have the right to your ego. Standard of conduct number 1. Standard of conduct number 2, you have to do social laws because too much of ego will not work. So, social laws. You have to, you are bound to social law. But then a higher thing. Suppose a nation is calling you. You are young and not in India but in the West. Okay, conscription is there. Compulsory military training. Okay, so you have to go. So you have to then give up the right to maintain your family. That takes precedence. And the last one is spiritual life. If your spiritual life says that you cannot do this, then that takes precedence. So spiritual life takes precedence over national demands. National demands take precedence over family demands, and family demands take precedence over your own personal needs. And there is this gradation. Okay, that's why he quotes so many people. He quotes, let us say, uh, uh, Buddha. He gave up his family responsibilities and went away. Although he had a child and a young wife, he had to give up both. This is the in the ashram also we had some interesting cases like that. Okay, so when the family came to take him back, the sadhak Sri Aurobindo refused and said, "No, this sadhak has got the full right to remain here and do his sadhana." So they had to go back. So this is what he's saying then. But the sadhaka, I am now reading the last part of the summary. But the sadhaka of the integral yoga must not be subject to any of these lower laws. He must depend fully only on the Lord of works, who alone will guide him in all these matters. Once you have surrendered to the Lord, He will decide for you what you have to do and what you don't have to do. Again, we refer back to the Gita's Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. All these duties which are very, very valid in society, individual needs, social needs, moral needs, national needs, all these are cancelled when you enter the spiritual life. But it has to be a sincere spiritual life, not a pretense. After his surrender, his desires and needs may exist, but only for exhaustion and final disappearance. Again, his personal desires may persist for the benefit of the larger community, okay? And the largest being humanity itself, Sri Aurobindo, and then the supermind. So, for instance, supermind, he had to do, so he had the full right to give up his family responsibility. Finally, only the divine guidance alone will act in the sadhaka. All other lower laws becoming redundant and inapplicable. This is what he said in this para. Okay? So it's a very interesting para. I've gone into great detail to examine what he's saying. They have got how much time, I don't know, maybe 2-3 minutes, but this is what we have done. Okay? Now with this background, if you read, there will be no problem in understanding what he's saying. The social law, that second term of our progress, is a means to which the ego is subjected in order that it may learn discipline by subordination to a wider collective ego. Wider collective ego is a society, okay? The social, it could also be the family. The wider collective law can apply to the family, to the community, to the nation, finally to the humanity. That could be the wider collective ego. This law may be quite empty of any moral content that we have seen, and may express only the needs or the practical good of the society as each society conceives it. Every society will have something which may not be the good of the other societies. Okay, that's what it is. Or it may express these needs and that good, those needs and that good, but modified and colored and supplemented by higher moral or ideal law. That also we saw, that the social law can spill over into the higher moral law. Okay, it is binding on the developing but not yet perfectly developed individual in the shape of social duty, family obligation, communal or national demand. They will give you the gradation. So long as it is not in conflict with the growing sense of the higher right, which is the spiritual law. But the sadhaka of the karma yoga will abandon this also to the Lord of works. Let the divine decide everything for you, what you should do, what you should not. After he has made his surrender, his social impulses and judgments will, like his desires, only be used for their exhaustion, or it may be, so far as they are still necessary for a time, to enable him to identify his lower mental nature with mankind in general, or with any grouping of mankind in its works and hopes and aspirations. But after that brief time is over, they will be withdrawn, and a divine government will alone abide. He will be identified with the divine and with others only through the divine consciousness and not through the mental nature. Mental nature is a moral standard, or at a lower even social standard is a mental standard. The social law need not be the same in every community. What is applicable in India may not be applicable in other countries. So that completes the second para today. So we stop here, and next we have to read from for even after the Sri. So we'll keep that for next time. Okay? We got 3 minutes more, but I think we can stop here too. Unless there are any questions. So shall we stop?
Rangada,
Goku.
can I ask
Yeah.
a question? I'm sorry. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the Arjuna's dejection, in the Bhagavad Gita, the initial dejection, can you say like a conflict between the second and the third law?
Yeah, Arjuna is saying, I want to stick to the social law that
Mhm.
you should not kill anybody.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it is a social law. It's also
Mm.
moral law for him. How can you kill somebody? It's moral. You can't do that. So for him, it is social as well as moral, but not spiritual. And
Okay.
Sri Krishna is telling him, you have to go to the spiritual level and not worry about the second social law and the moral law. Go beyond. That's what Sri Krishna is telling him.
So the second and the third law conflict there in Arjuna. The second, the social, and the third, the moral law conflict
Yeah.
in Arjuna.
Yeah. For him, the divine is telling him what to do. So that's the last law,
Mm-hmm.
the spiritual law.
Okay. Okay.
But
I got it.
the divine is capable of seeing what Arjuna cannot see. The divine is seeing that the Kauravas are evil forces which have to be destroyed.
Mm.
Just like Sri Aurobindo said that we have to fight Hitler, okay, and we have to defeat him. Exactly in the same way. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Got it.
Okay. Au revoir, everybody.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Rajat.